Well, anyway, I thought I was going to go to so the salaries. You want to talk about his
Yeah,
salary?
let's talk. 1.2 million, right?
Yes. So Tiari is 1.072. Just over 1.1
Just over
basically.
$1 million,
Yeah. But the thing that's so crazy about that is that he's at that, and
Like
all the new guys.
Like Silva is at 524.
Yeah, Silva's at 524. Muyumba's at 491.
Yeah.
And so so first of all, what I would say is, so all these people who are on the internet like shouting about this, some of our other podcast competitors are also shouting about this. And the first thing I would say is, look, there is no management ever that is not going to get something wrong, right? You can't expect that our best players are going to be the highest paid and all the way perfectly down to our worst player.
Yeah.
You're going to make a mistake, right? There's no whatever. So I don't really have a problem with Tiari making 1.07. He's clearly not worth that, but you can make a mistake, right? And he's only here I think he's only signed through the end of the year.
Okay.
Right. So I don't think we're not committed to it or whatever,
so that's like a prorated.
But one of the things it suggests is that they thought he was going to be good. I don't think he is. He's fast.
Well, who's going to judge whether he's good or not? Whose job is that?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is he could be good, and then Pineda may not see it, and then he's not playing.
Pineda thinks Miguel Berry's good. He must think this guy's I mean,
he runs.
Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo.
He played him over Berry.
Did Barry see any time in the one game I wouldn't have minded seeing him?
The one game we wanted Barry to start and end, didn't show up.
Yeah, if you had given me the team, none of the internationals would have started. I would have started a very young team and said, "Look, go for it, go have it, go have at it." And if we get a result, we get a result. We don't. Hopefully, Nashville wins. We play Orlando, and nobody has you can kill the momentum of a team. I mean, this is the other thing. If you play your top team
and then
you lose, then you can kill the momentum of your team. Now, obviously, if you play your top team and they do well, they do well. But if you don't play your top team, you have no chance of losing momentum.
And you can also create momentum because I'm sure the senior players know like some of the twos, right? So you bring up a Firmino, whoever, and give them their moment at the end of the season.
Firmino for sure,
right? It's like
he's deserved it with the twos all year. Give him his
they're watching him. They're giving high fives. Like you got a result that made a difference to our season.
Can root for him, and then they can laugh at Noonan playing all of his starters.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been super high on Noonan all year as this amazing coach, but I'm like, I don't know why Lucho was in the game.
Yeah,
Noonan,
right?
What? I don't know why Miaga got into it with Almada and then almost got a red card later. Why? Why is he still in the game, Noonan?
So
I would say the same thing to them.
Is it seriously just about momentum and like what? Why? I seriously don't understand.
It's momentum, and it's a weird thing because, of course, in other soccer, there is no such thing as a playoff, so there is no such thing as you need momentum. You just get results.
Right.
But I think, in the playoffs. But to me, so if you are – the only way you could maybe justify it is if you were on a super hot roll over the last third of the season. You suddenly got hot and had a string of 9 straight matches and you really don't want to touch anything. Even if I did that, I would have still said, look, you got 45 minutes and then I'm bringing all the stars off, right? Because I'm not chancing anything, right? Exactly. But I wouldn't have done it even if I had all the momentum. I wouldn't have done it because there was nothing to play for, including there was all these weird things. There's Champions League at stake. But we didn't have a shot at a Champions League spot either. So, so there was nothing to play for. In fact, as I've been saying over and over, I think we would have been better off if we had lost or tied. And we hope that Nashville would have won. Now, Nashville didn't do us the pleasure, but we can't control that.
So let's talk about who was I going to go to here? Sorry. Whether we... Next year, Miles gets paid $1.4 million right now.
Yep.
Arguably one of the top 2 center backs in the league, Zimmerman.
Yep.
But Miles also 5 years younger. Yeah. Absolutely worth the money at what he's getting paid now, obviously.
Sure.
DP level money next year.
Can you look up how old Miles is?
How old
Carmen?
is?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, is he designated player money worthy next year?
I think yes. So it's funny because, you know, in MLS, they have set the salary structure that none of the defenders are worth it because none of the defenders are that good. He's 26. People, the
Okay.
next 5 years are his prime.
Yeah.
Next 5 years prime. Anyway, so so they set the salary structure, and the defenders don't get paid that much because nobody's that much better defensively, supposedly. But my argument would be like, look, there are all these young South Americans. You can go. Clearly, all these teams have shown you can go in and get a guy who can score, right? And we, being the one of the teams that has the most salary, we can go out. We've gotten a Barca. We got before that, we got a PD Martinez, and now we had a Almada. We clearly are going to go out and get those players who are potentially going to score, right? Even Marcelino Moreno, right? The one thing you can't find, clearly, is a super defender, right? We went and got, Peruvian international and Abram. And Abram, no offense, I mean, he ain't even close to as good as Robinson, right? So in my opinion, if you have a valuable commodity, you would say not just whether or not, how much better he is above replacement, sort of. But the other thing is there's nobody. Yeah. So to me, that's your only option. So if you lose Miles, then, right now you would say, well, Peralta and Abram are the starters. But to me, Peralta and Abram, who are two average MLS starters, that's way worse than Miles.
So just curious, like if you are Miles Robinson's manager right now, like I would say Miles' Achilles injury was super bad timing, right? I think he may have gotten a chance to go to Europe and played in the World Cup. Had he shown well, he may have gotten that deal at 25 years old, right, to go to European club. Now he's 26.
Yep.
Okay, he's kind of at that point to make the leap over to Europe. He's starting to. Yes, he's in his prime, but who's going to pay big money for him to land in the right club over in a lower level EPL team or wherever, right? If you're his manager, what are you telling him right now, given you got the 2026 World Cup? He obviously wants to, like, for his highlight of his career, that might be it right now. If he's able to go on a really good run the next 3 years, in great form, like where should Miles be in your opinion in terms of his focus? Should he take that DP deal with Atlanta United and say, hey, just keep progressing and solid up your game? Or do you think he could actually do better if you're talking for him, not for Atlanta United fans?
What I would say is you have to ask the player, right? So in my opinion, if I were him, I would go to Europe only if he can get in one of the better sides. And I'm not talking about it has to be a number one side, but I'm talking about a team that's at least in contention for a Champions League spot.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people would say he ain't going to get that. That may be true.
Yeah.
Right. But if you can't get that, because the problem is, so let's say you go over to the Premier League and, you get a bottom side of Sheffield or whatever, then you've got to go there, establish yourself, play 2 years, then move up. And even if you make that move, you're now making the big move at 28, which is okay. Yeah. That gives you a good 3 years at a top club. But to me, is that worth it?
Like, so if he goes to a really strong team like Villa right now, who's playing really well, like in that 5th or 6th spot, could push into a Champions League spot if they shore up the defense, right? And then you gamble on seeing if a guy like Miles, who's young, because here's the thing about soccer. When you play with other players who are better than you, man, you play better soccer. It's like your game escalates to a different level. And sometimes you actually become better than them. And some, like, there's this weird thing that happens when you play with other really good players. It's like you kind of reach their level pretty quickly because you're like, wow, I've been playing with some pretty crappy soccer players for a long time.
So there is a U.S. national team defender who plays at Fulham.
Yeah.
And who's in the Premier League, right?
Yeah.
And Miles Robinson is a way better player
than Ream.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, I think that he's a steal.
Yeah.
Honestly. And I'll point out, this is not a defender thing.
So I'm going to go back to, if you're his manager, like, why shouldn't somebody be? I agree with you.
So I would have said, look, go try to find a Champions League kind of contending team, or alternatively a champion, contending team, in a lower league. Like PSV has bought in all these Americans. Like if he could get a starting spot on PSV, sure, go in Holland. Because that's going to be a Champions League team next year or something like that. So it would be either a 5, 6, 7 place team in one of the top leagues or a top 3 team in a lower league.
Yeah.
If you get one of those, go for it, right? Because you'll never get that chance again, and you got to play, right? Now, the worry, whenever you move to Europe, no matter whose side you move to, whether you move to a bottom team like Sheffield or if you move to a top team, there's always a chance you don't break into the side, and then your career is going nowhere, right? Yeah. So what I would say is, in my opinion, unless you can get one of those spots, then the other thing I would do is I would sign for the highest MLS designated player spot they give you. And some MLS team is going to give him a designated player. It might be Atlanta, but if it's not Atlanta, somebody else is. Right?
I just feel like, there's some bad scouting in Europe if they're not looking at Miles. And to your point, Tim Ream or Miles, and say, hey, I want to give this guy a shot. Like, I would say there should be some Serie A teams too that probably would be looking at Miles.
Well, one thing that was interesting, I don't know if you watched, but AC Milan played Juventus in Italy this weekend, and there were 4 Americans in the starting lineup, 2 for each team.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, I think that says the American players, and those are offensive players, but the American players are a lot better than some people give them credit for, and teams are starting to realize this. PSV just bought a couple Americans. They're in first place in Holland, right?
What's up with Tyler Adams these days?
Still hurt.
Question.
Still hurt?
Well, he's coming back, but still hurt.
He's starting to train and
I think he's training. Yeah, he had a setback a little bit, so I don't know how, but
And who is he with?
For Leeds.
Yeah, where is he?
I want to say West Ham.
Online correspondent needs to look that up.
He's in the Premier League. He's in one of the decent sides. The West Ham, Aston Villa. I think it's West Ham is my guess.
Let's go.
But he's not playing for them yet. It's one of the decent Premier League teams he signed for. Bournemouth.
Bournemouth.
Okay. Yeah, one of the good.
Not so good. They just lost to my Wolves. I mean, come on.
They're still a good Premier League team.
The Wolves are pretty good this year.
Yeah, the Wolves have been way better.
A lot of talent.
They said he's out till at least February with another hamstring injury.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's not good. Nope. So it's a big setback. I thought it was a little setback.